B.
C.
All right, that's it. Rob, you said you watched this before, and it's like your favorite film from last year, right?
Yeah.
Favorite? Why?
I'll get into it properly when
Okay.
Ben and Emmanuel are here. But like, it's it's a very personal thing. Like, it's
okay. Because I watched it. Maybe it's because it's because I'm ill as well, right? But it's like, is it? I wouldn't say it's an uplifting film, or
no,
like
no,
it's not exactly.
It broke me, dude. Like, so I watched it in the cinema twice.
Oh,
And
okay, fair, all right.
the first time I watched it, I kind of spent most of the film going like, okay, this is. I kind of I spent most of the film going, something terrible is going to happen, but I don't know why I think something terrible is going to happen. And then it ended, and I was like, oh man, like I was just like completely blown away. And I was like, Rachel, you've got to come and see this. Let's go and see this. So I watched it with Rachel, and watching it knowing how it ended, I was in the cinema and I legitimately felt like I was going to have a panic attack. Like, it was hitting me so hard. And yeah, I knew picking it that wasn't going to be a universal thing, because the things that I take from it are very like specific to experiences I've had.
He also
So
went to Turkey for a holiday.
I've never been to Turkey.
Oh,
I never went to an all-inclusive holiday either. But outside of that, like, there was so many things where I was going like, man, that's something I felt, or that's something that I can sort of see the thought process behind, and like things like that. So yeah, I knew not everybody was going to pick up on it, and it wasn't going to be a universal experience. But yeah, I thought, yeah,
yeah. I think like what you were saying earlier. I think if you don't if you don't sort of on a personal level to like a lot of it, then you might not sort of take the same out of it.
yeah, definitely. Like, it's all very subtle, and
Mm.
there are so many things with Callum in particular. But I think if you haven't felt similar things to what he's feeling, you wouldn't even realize that it's going on. Like, there's a really interesting thing, right? So Charlotte Wells, the writer and director, I was listening to an interview with her the other day, and I thought it was so cool, right? She was saying that when she was writing it and when she was directing Paul Mescal in the role as well, she knew that she had to be aware of what he was going through, and that Paul Mescal had to be aware of what Callum was going through. But to write the character and for him to play the character, they had to like bury it and forget about it. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting. So it's like that kind of thing where like he's going through something that he's not aware of, and to be able to write it, you almost have to not be aware of it yourself, but you can't write it without being aware of it. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Damn it, Simon! You got him saying his bit. Two people aren't here.
That's all right, man. There's like a string in my back. I can just pull it again.
Gone.
Oh, I was say it's like, was it weird to say that the moment I saw him doing fucking Tai Chi, I kind of went, yeah, I kind of know what he's going through. No one fucking does Tai Chi in the middle of the street without going through some shit.
Yeah, Rachel
And
said
I was
similar,
like, yeah, I could have. I was like, the moment I wasn't sure where the story was going first, right? Because it was a weird camcorder video holiday thing, and I was like, odd choice. Don't really like camcorder video stuff, but like, fair enough. We'll see where it goes. Then when he started doing Tai Chi in the middle of the street, like like someone who's a bit,
Mentally
out
ill.
there, let's say.
Oh.
Well, I mean, that's being polite, to be honest, right? That's not. He was in a much like different place than just being out there. But like once he does that, once people do like Tai Chi in the middle of the street, you go, yep, he's going through the process. I wonder how far. Oh yeah, he went through the process. All right, fucking hell, Jesus Christ, he went through all the stages, didn't he?
Yeah, but there's so many bits like that where it's like there's a bit that I really like. Like it's not my favorite scene or anything like that, but there's a bit I really like where he sort of like absent-mindedly walks out into the road and he nearly gets run over, and you wouldn't even notice it because he doesn't react. And it's just like it's that kind of thing where he's like nonchalant about his own existence. It's just, yeah, I think it's such a clever way of like portraying it. And oh man, I'm saying too much, but I don't mind repeating it. Yeah, another thing that I really like about it is that because he's kind of going through this and he doesn't realize, the film is really good at never overplaying it. So he's going through something awful, and you can see he's going through something awful, but because he doesn't quite consciously know the extent of what he's going through, it's never portrayed as something that's important to him. And that's like it's a double-edged thing because I think it makes it easy to miss what he's going through, but I think if you notice it, it makes it so much more effective.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Oh sorry, no, I'm sorry. I am on plenty of drugs. Well, antibiotics. That's not fair. Oh, I mean, same thing. I'm not well, so yeah. My reactions could be much slower today.
Is it just the flu, or is it like? Well, I know you found out that you might have asthma as well, but like,
yeah, it's like it's like whooping cough almost, but not like quite the same. It's like, I mean, I don't need a pump of steroids yet. Thank God, because I've already got like heavy dosage of antibiotics. But man, it's like, yeah, it's not antibiotics really sometimes really fuck your system. If you've got like antibiotics and you've got like this other pill that's for your breathing, and another pill is like for your phlegm, and it's all gross. And I don't want to describe exactly how gross it is.
Be careful if you have to start taking, because that fucking puts so much weight on.
The what?
I've got diagnosed with asthma. I think I was like 7 or 8. I got 3 times a year, and I'd have 2 or 3 like set to steroids throughout the year, and weight sort of piled on.
Oh fucking hell! That sounds.
Just be careful if you're on them to try and sort of work it off in a way.
I mean, if work doesn't kill me first, then yeah, sure.
Someone with experience of your situation, try and help you out.
True, son. True.
Yeah, asthma's fucking, especially like in the first, like, sort of the last 5 I've sort of controlled it, but like before then it was like I'd be alright for a while, then I'd end up in hospital getting oxygen. Whatever bug I had just sort of fucking killed me, but it does depend on the level of asthma you.
Yeah, so currently on not quite stage 1, like stage 0.5 first. So we'll see. So hopefully it doesn't develop more than that. Then hopefully it'll just hopefully antibiotics will keep it all healthy and normal. Then I can start working myself back to death again.
I know you've obviously had yours for quite a long time now, Pat. But doesn't asthma usually go in like 7-year cycles?
It's quite weird because generally people that kind of lose it by the time they reach the end of teenage years.
Yeah.
Okay? but then once you get it, as you get older, it's a lot more difficult. So I think 2 years ago I had, which was my last face to face with the asthma nurse. She was quite confident that I was sort of out of asthma, but I still feel it. Like if I don't take my pump for a few days, I do feel. But I think it depends on the person. But as I lost weight, my asthma got better.
Yeah, I imagine that's pretty common, isn't it?
Yeah, but the problem is, like when I got asthma, like I was saying to Simon, I got ill about 2-3 times a year, and I had 2-3 lots of steroids, which hold the weight on. Even the only thing that sort of stopped me not earlier was because I played football quite regularly, and I had the trial late in Orient and stuff. Then when I stopped playing, it just felt like a multi-year deal with McDonald's.
Fuck! That hurt. That was funny, but that hurt.
Sorry, Simon. But yeah,
let me get some like water or something first.
you look under the weather as well. Who's he?
Is that Jordan Peterson?
That's James Cameron.
Oh.
Rob always has the bad guy in the back of his head.
Well, I was just worried, is all.
I don't know. Camilla's watching something about Terminator.
James Cameron breaks down his most iconic role.
Oh, is that those GQ magazine ones?
Yeah.
They're pretty good. The Ewan McGregor one's quite good.
The Nicolas Cage one's brilliant.
Well, I can imagine that is actually.
That'll be funny.
He's reenacting some of his characters.
Yeah. Sorry. Camilla just woke me up.
I've been trying to wake you up for an hour.
That's all right. Ben still ain't turned up.
You've drained him.
I was working today as well. So.
Oh, he's working today?
Yeah, it's the last Saturday at this job.
Oh, that's good at least. We could have a celebration. A cheers for Emmanuel's new job.
Yeah.
Cheers, did you say?
Yeah. Good riddance.
Cheers.
Hey, you didn't drink. That's not a
on.
cheers.
I'm probably going to need it later on. You know how the Chargers get me.
Yeah.
Are they playing tonight?
Yeah, last one.
Cool.
I just thought we're done for.
Oh, hey, Emmanuel. How are you doing?
Hey. Hey, Simon.
What have you done to us this week?
Sorry, guys.
We're all just so fucking fatigued, and
I knew it'd be a rough one, but I didn't expect this. I didn't expect to give Simon asthma.
they're gonna have to wheel Ben in an iron lung.
2 are sick. Alec, Ben's not turned up. I've turned up as the head coach.
Oh.
你好吗?
No, not really.
Uh,
I mean, I had to go to the doctors today to get told that stupid, you have asthma. Oh, right. I am stupid.
What an exchange.
I mean, that's pretty much how like, in much more nicer words, right? But he pretty much went, you've got asthma, stupid. And he was like, wait, I have asthma? I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I do have asthma.
That would explain this pump.
Well, no, it's like, it's more like my brother has asthma, though he's kind of like, he's occasionally needs a pump, but it's like, he doesn't really need it anymore. But it's like, yeah, but I already thought my brother has asthma. It's hereditary. Oh yeah, duh, fucking yeah. So yeah. So fucking. Then afterwards, watch and so it's like I watched this film. Maybe you know what it is. I'm very worried that it's because I'm kind of ill as well that I didn't give your film as much as like I didn't give your film a fair go. I might have to rewatch your
I do
film. I
recommend
might have to
rewatching it, to be
rescore it
fair.
if I want better.
I think it benefits from a rewatch if you know what's coming, then it's easier to look out for things.
I guess that's true. I guess that's
I
So,
think it
shall
was
we-
interesting looking out for things, even not knowing what was coming, because it felt like the film tells you everything that's coming. And it also gives you little hints to all sorts of things about the films and more context, which is cool.
I can't tell if you've just fallen asleep on the end of that.
Nah, I'm still awake, just about.
Well, thanks for trying, Camille.
Yeah, thank you, baby.
Sounds like you said yes, incubate me.
Put me in the chamber and just spray me with a bottle. What do we want to do? We want to wait for Ben, or
Yeah, I feel like we should really.
Yeah.
And he
Right.
said he'd be 20 minutes late, so that by his times, that's like 10 to 11.
I enjoy that he went. I'll be late, so I'll probably be with you 20 past. Like, no, you're consistently with us at about 20 past.
Oh, yeah,
I'll
it's
be
his
later than usual, which is earlier than this week.
Hey, there he is.
actually
It's
his
Did you
Befreen.
just summon him?
I'm back, motherfuckers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you've got a blurry background. And it looks all
Oh
weird.
shit!
Oh shit! A blurry background.
Nah, Rob.
What will we
the
do with the blurry
front-
background?
Simon, your score is exactly what it is on IMDb.
Well done,
Cool.
Simon.
But what I will say is, which is quite interesting, Dan, me, and Simon scores are like the ones in IMDb, and then everyone else's scores are like the ones on Mubi and Metacritic score.
I think we're on the right side then.
You guys
What?
fucked
Okay.
them
How
base.
about on Rotten Tomatoes then? What about that, huh?
Nobody gives a fuck
I'm-
about
I'm-
Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm not,
That's kind of what I was gonna say.
but it's an interesting point which we can get into.
Yeah, I did think that was quite interesting actually, because so us four have rated this higher than Ghost in the Shell, and you three rated it lower than Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, it's
Well-
not. No, it's not. It's not better than Ghost in the Shell, man.
It very
Oh, well,
much
that's-
fucking is.
Yeah,
Good lord.
It very
No.
much is. It very much is.
Hey, look,
yeah.
everyone's different, like I say. I probably enjoyed Ghost in the Shell more, but I felt that this was a better film.
Yeah, I think this is a far better film.
Well, that's your opinion.
I know. That's why I said it.
It's your opinion.
I mean, also, again,
Opinion?
as I was saying, I am kind of ill, so I might give it a rewatch afterwards, and I might change my score.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, I do
Okay.
think it's worth a rewatch, just because.
Afterwards, but we'll see how we'll see. We'll cross that bridge if it's not burnt or whatever.
No, I'm sorry, Rob. I'm sorry.
That's all right, man. I'm sorry. That's... but yeah, no, I didn't want to I didn't want to set any expectations when I picked it, but I knew this wasn't going to be like a universal kind of everyone loves it kind of thing, because I think to a point it's almost like a choose your own adventure, except it's like the same thing we're all watching. But I think because it doesn't like give you any answers, it just kind of presents you with here's like here's some recorded footage and here are some memories, and now go and like make your own thing from it. So I think I imagine we've all taken different things from it based on experiences we've had, and I would be surprised if like any two of our takes are the same. And yeah, so yeah, I never expected that this was going to be like, yeah, we all love it, let's move on kind of thing. Because I think you do have to kind of like think about it and let it sit for a bit and sort of work out what your point of view from it is. But yeah, I really love this film, and I don't think I love it in the way that I love any other film, because there's kind of like a therapeutic quality that I don't think I can think of another film as an example of. And the first time I watched it, I was saying before you guys got here that I kind of spent the whole time just kind of like watching these memories. And Mark Kermode put it really well. He said that the film basically like it makes you feel like you're remembering something that didn't happen to you. And it was kind of that feeling, because I was kind of like going, this feels really familiar, but like I don't have like young parents, and I'm not a young parent myself, but there's something that's really kind of, and like I was joking earlier as well, like I've never been to Turkey, I've never been to like an all-inclusive resort, but like there's something that just feels like really familiar about it. And I couldn't work out what it was. And as well as that feeling of familiarity, there was also this feeling of just like dread. And I was kind of going like something terrible is going to happen. I
Judge
don't know
Dredd.
what. Not Judge Dredd, no.
Oh.
But I was kind of going something terrible is going to happen. I don't know why I think something terrible is going to happen, but I think something terrible is going to happen. And then the end happened, and nothing kind of like explicitly terrible happens. But I was kind of just sat in the cinema going like, oh shit, like I kind of realized why I had that feeling of familiarity and why I had that feeling of dread. And it doesn't come from the sort of like beyond the surface narrative, but it comes from the feeling that the film is building towards. And it just that realization that what was familiar was the feeling just blew me away. And I came back and I was like, Rachel, we have to go and see this film. Like, come with me, let's go and see it again. And the second time I watched it, knowing that, it legitimately felt like I was having a panic attack in the cinema. And I was just sat there like my heart was going so fast, and I felt like I was in the film almost. And yeah, like I said, I can't think of another film that's done that to me. So I was like, I have to pick this and see what you guys make of it. And I never expected everyone to love it, but yeah, I think if I was to do a double bill of this and Big Fish, I'd have to take like a couple of weeks off work just to get myself back together. And yeah, it's a very personal thing. Like it's not an experience that I think you can replicate in the way that with Ghost in the Shell you probably can, because with Ghost in the Shell it's very much like this is the story. Have no kind of misconception about what the story is. This is what it is for everyone. Whereas Aftersun, it's like here's a feeling, see how you get on with it. And yeah, I think on that level, it makes it a much more interesting piece of film.
Well, that's your opinion.
It is.
It's good.
Just so we're clear.
Was the familiarity behind it because of like all of the British tourists that were in the Turkish place, but they're all seemingly Essex girls. And it was just like, I saw that, and I saw that particular scene. I'm like, I bet you they're from Essex. It's their accent kind of sounds like they're from around our ends, and I was like, yeah, that's very typical, especially in like when was this? 2000? Yeah. That's about that.
That makes sense.
That's one of the first things I picked up on. I know that's not what you're supposed to think, but like again, but I was like, this is definitely like British tourists in the European
But I think that's another nice thing about it, though. Like, so it's set in an all-inclusive resort, and it's kind of like this thing where a father has scraped together what little money he has to take his daughter away to Turkey for a week to like forget about their problems. And I think a lesser film would have been quite judgmental about that. I don't think there's any judgment in this. I think that's really nice. I think there's a lot in this film that a lesser film would have been judgmental about, to be honest.
That's your opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mean like judgmental by the viewer or by the film itself? I'm not quite sure what you mean.
It's just that it's that typical kind of setting that you associate with kind of like working class people who don't have a lot, and they all go to a different country to sit in the same hotel, and the only difference to what they're doing back home, because it's filled with British people anyway, is that it's sunny. And I think a lesser film would have been like, oh, isn't this a shit holiday? And it's like, no, there are moments of joy. Like, there's a lot of moments of joy, and it's like I said, it's building towards that feeling. Like, something's wrong with Callum, but between him and his daughter, there is love there. And I think on another level as well, like the performances of the two of them, like I forgot that they weren't a legitimate father and daughter. I completely bought into that, and then by the end of it, I was like, oh, they're credited as actors. What?
That's your opinion.
That's the theme this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Alec is done.
It's been done a week.
Finished.
Oh well, never mind. What's your film, Ben?
What?
Shall we do opening statements then?
That's your
What?
opinion.
That's not my opinion. That was a question.
Yes, that was definitely an actual question.
What did you say, Rob?
Shh, stop agreeing.
When?
The last thing you said?
Oh, I said, what's your film, Ben?
Wait, let me get mine in first before I fucking die, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, when I first saw this film, wasn't quite sure where it was going. It's like a brother and sister going on holiday. Oh no, it's her and her dad. Okay, but it's a bit. It starts off a bit. I'm not quite sure what they were going for. Then he starts doing the Tai Chi, and I'm like, yep. So emotions and expressions are going to develop, and oh, yep, and it's going to develop with her and her journey through her life and her dad and her and his. Would it be fair to say inner demons? Oh,
Yeah, I think there's like, I'll let you sort of do your thing, but yeah,
Okay.
Well, there's
I mean,
a big kind of.
I feel like, okay, because like it's his. I don't want to say demons because it makes it because saying inner demons makes him seem like a bad person, but I don't think I don't think he's a bad person. I think he's just going through pain. So let's just say his inner suffering, let's say.
I don't think inner demons makes you a bad person.
Him going through it is essentially it. But it's because saying demons is, oh no, yeah, okay. I mean, the fucking context, I guess, isn't it? But okay.
Yeah, it's all your opinion. Oh no. Oops.
Sorry, yeah, that's true. But, okay. Okay. Just a little bit. There was many emotions and things going through the story, especially with Callum himself, and it was interesting story to see him going through it and like the decisions he's made, even if he doesn't realize the decisions he's made. But it was kind of depressing to watch it because it's like, damn, I feel like that could have been me if I was in that situation. And that's like, ugh. And it kind of made me go, I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy that at all because I'm about Callum's age technically. And if I had a kid and I was going through that, would I have done the same sort of shit he did? Might have. But then again, here's my opinion.
Hey now, hey, that's your opinion. Oh fuck. I just want to pat him on the back, but
No.
oh, okay.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Jokes aside, but yeah, it's kind of like depressing to watch it as a sick person. But like I get why it was made, and I understand like the general purpose and like this where the story was going for it. Did I personally enjoy it? Maybe not. But again, my opinion. But so it's like we'll see. I like to see how you guys who enjoyed it more, except who enjoyed it most, except for Rob, because Rob should be last, but because he did pick it. I would say, was it? Wait, who scored highest?
I think I scored next highest.
Oh, you did? All right, go on. What was your opinion on the film?
I was really. It's just my opinion. But I was really impressed with this one. So thank you for picking it. I found it highly interesting. Because I went through basically like the whole thing, going like, I have no idea what the fuck the point of that was. And then that last shot, I went, hold on a fucking minute. Under Pressure ended, and I was like, hang on, what? Because I was having the same thing that Rob had, where there was like the sense of something terrible's about to happen. And I was like, if I'm about to see Willem Dafoe's penis or Charlotte Gainsborough's fanny, I'm not going to be impressed. Like if something horrible happens to this little girl, or if something horrible happens to him, I'm not going to be pleased with this. Like, keep your dreadful shit thing happening away from me. And then, yeah, we got to the end, and then nothing had happened. And I was like, whew, home clear. And then it all just kind of Under Pressure ended, and then it all kind of layered on top of it. And I was like, damn. Shit. And I just kind of sat there for a bit, and I was like, oh man, that was actually. I need to rewatch this as soon as possible. But I remember coming to you, Rob, and I said, like, sorry, something's going on. Yeah, I said, like, what are you getting out of this? And you were just like, that's a big question. And then we talk through all of it, and I was just like, yeah. And there were pieces where I was going like, would he do that? Would he do that? And then the more we talked about it, the more I was like, yeah, I guess he would, and that is kind of the point of the story. And we can get into that like later and stuff. But yeah, I was very, very impressed with this one. Gold star.
From what you guys have been saying, it kind of puts my feelings and view into more perspective.
I think this is one that needs to be talked about, and I think this is one where, like, you don't understand it. You don't understand it after just one watch. I think you've experienced it, but you've experienced it kind of like in real time. When I think you're supposed to remember it, or you're supposed to see it as like kind of like a memory, I guess, but you didn't know it was a memory until the end. Watching it with that context, it makes like so much more sense to you, and you go like knowing what is at the end. And this is the experience I generally have when I watch something a second time. You are picking more stuff out, and you're going, oh, he said that, which relates to this. And it's like I found the second watch like 10 times more valuable than the first watch. But Like, so I would recommend everyone watch it twice. But obviously, you know, that's my opinion. It's annoying, isn't it, Patrick? Anyway.
What?
Hmm? Nothing.
Actually, I'm probably missing context. Anyway, what I would say, actually, I wonder, I'll let Ben and Pat speak first, and then I'll come in last. Thanks.
Sorry, Ben. Hospitality. It good.
Yeah. What Rob mentioned earlier was quite interesting because I think I liked the film for the reasons that Rob didn't connect to it, actually, which is quite fascinating for me because I felt like I really related to it because, as I mentioned before, being a 90s kid, some of the early holidays I went with my mum and dad were quite just like this. Some of the early ones that weren't very much, we didn't have much money, so we went to like these cheap places, and then once we got somewhere, we just, okay, this is just a little base for our like 1 or 2 weeks away, and just we made the most of it, and it didn't matter, we had a great time. And to this day I still remember some really vivid holidays I went in Greece and Spain for the same reason. Like Aftersun is so like important to Sophie's character, and the director obviously as well. It's just, you have this vision of an idealistic time, and you spend it with your loved ones, like in this case her father, and you just remember all the great bits. Sometimes you remember weird bits as well, but overall you just remember this poignantness about it. Like poignant is a good word to use. I've seen that in a lot of reviews as well. It's just quite, nothing much happens, but at the same time everything happens, and all these great things who shape you as a person happen when you're young, and you just have this recollection of just like nice, pleasant times. Some things you don't quite understand at the time, but when you look back, you're like, okay, I understand there's something more going on here. And when you look at an adult's eyes, you have this feeling of nostalgia. And this film has the nostalgia, I think, and how it's shot as well is almost like you're watching it through like the camcorder, big old mini video cameras that they had in those days that I had as well. And it just like speaks a lot about, it was just a simple time, and he just made do with what he had, and he enjoyed what you had with the people you were with. And I think that was the strength of the film, was just like it told a lot by not doing much. And it had a lot of power to do it, and the way it did.
I really liked how you put that. You said nothing happens, but everything happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I try and describe this film, and I'm like,
it's hard to describe, isn't it?
This one's really, really good. What's it about?
It's a holiday.
A dad and a kid go on a holiday. And like the kid that I work with, he just kind of went, "Nice, man, that sounds sick." And I was like, "Yeah, it is."
Yeah,
I know you're not going to watch it,
yeah.
but like,
because it just like starts and ends. It's like we go on holiday and then we go home, and then it's just got this like bookend where it's just like all through the dad's eye of how he kind of like wanted to capture the life, well, this time with his daughter, which is very touching on its own. And
once you have an understanding of like that scale,
yeah,
sorry,
it's just really well done. And the more you think about it, like Rob says, and Alex as well, the more you think about it and go back and you realize, okay, that little scene here was quite telling. How they shot this scene is very telling, and moments here and there just add up together and think, okay, there was a lot more subtext and a lot more things going on behind the scenes than even the stuff you do see. And I thought that's very, very strong. And I thought, yeah, that's my take, I suppose.
I think that's one of the things that I really love about it, actually, is that it's so thoughtfully written. Because, well, I said, I'm repeating myself again, but I said it before Ben and Emmanuel, you two got here.
Pull the string.
I was watching I was listening to an interview with Charlotte Wells, who wrote and directed it, and she was saying that when she was writing it and when she was directing Paul Mescal to play Callum, she knew that she had to be aware of what Callum was going through in order to write his character, and that Paul had to be aware of what Callum was going through in order to play the character. But in order to write it and to play it to sort of, the in an authentic way and in a way that sort of does justice to what Callum is going through, they had to forget that they were aware of it. And so there's loads of these really nice moments, and this goes back to what you were saying, Simon, about his inner demons, where what I get from Callum is that he's a young father and he's sort of in this position that he doesn't really know what to do with because he's been forced to grow up really fast by having a child. And you also see that in Sophie and how mature she is for her age, because she's like hanging around with older kids and whatever, and she's very perceptive of what he's going through, which makes what he's going through a lot worse. And where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So what I get from Callum is that he has like this deep feeling of inadequacy. And there's so many subtle ways that the film shows you it. So there's the thing with the rug where he can't really afford it, so he goes back to buy it when Sophie's not around. And like there's a line that completely broke my heart, and it's after she does the karaoke on her own, and he says, if you want singing lessons, I'll buy you singing lessons. And she says, can you stop promising to pay for things that you can't afford? And that line there, and I was just like, oh, like,
Yeah, even
just sort of thinking of like an 11-year-old daughter turning around and saying that to you, like when you've already had like all of these experiences leading up to that. So like the one with the rug, the one where they get to the room and there's only one bed, and then there's sort of like a normal sized bed and a camping bed. So he's on the camping bed and he lets her have the normal bed, and even the little things like she doesn't have a wristband, but all the other kids do. Like there's all these things where it's like, yeah, Callum has done everything that he can to take her on this holiday. And there's just this deep feeling of like he's doing all that he can, but he's not doing a good enough job. And that really like just, man, I find it I find it so hard to watch with that in mind. But
Well, it's
yeah,
like,
so
when we were saying about when you watch it the first time, you're understanding it as like actually, I don't know if I want to put like a marker on this one. I think you can I related to both of these characters like really, really well. Because like you can kind of see just kind of through like the camera, like what the camera's doing when Sophie's like comparing herself to people, because you know that's what she's doing. That's like the spirit of what the camera is doing. You can tell she's like kind of her bond with her dad is like, I think it's something she really, really cherishes, but it's something that's like aged her, and it's something where shit that makes her go like, I'm not with these fucking kids. I was like 7 fucking ages ago. I'm past that now. I'm with this guy. Yeah, I could talk with the big kids. And like hearing people brush her off as a kid, like really fucking pisses her off. But then you also relate to Callum because, you know, as a young, he's our age basically. But like you are going like, I want to make the best life possible for you, but you know, I physically do not have the money. And there was that scene where he's doing something in the bathroom. I can't quite remember. I think he's brushing his teeth in the bathroom. And she says, do you remember, he's like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, just like sometimes I just feel a bit down, you know, sometimes when you've had a big day, you just feel a little bit down and a bit depressed and stuff, and you just need to sit there and just like, and then he like she can't see him, but he like angrily like spits on the mirror, and he's like, okay, yeah. And I was like, man, could you imagine that? Like you just shelled out all this money, and your whole thing is I want to please my kid and have her like let her have a good time and have a good life and stuff, and she's still fucking just throwing a strop like But sorry, that was
that scene is so effective, like because Callum is going through. It's kind of like the whole film in a nutshell, because it's like Callum is going through something because of something that Sophie has said, but he can't show Sophie that he's going through something because of something that she said. So he takes his frustration out on the mirror, and it's done. And then he goes back to hiding it. And I think that's really nice.
Mm.
Pat and Emmanuel didn't do their opening statement.
No, they hated it.
Have at it, Patrick.
So,
Make sure it's your opinion, though.
would you shut it? Stop taking it out on Rob's film.
I don't know. Something you just said. Look,
Right, so probably for the first hour, 5 minutes of this film, I was sitting there, I was thinking, no, it's a nice film, but what's the point of it, kind of thing. I was struggling with it at first, but then sort of how it sort of built in the last half hour, sort of made everything sort of in my head anyway, sort of click, sort of like the bathroom scene. Then there's that one scene where he's sat on the edge of the bed, just bawling his eyes out in the dark. And it sort of dawned on me. I was like, so this is sort of like a memoir from her that she's sort of looking back on, and obviously her dad is no longer around, and I think she's probably looking back on it thinking, if only I had the mental capacity then that I do have now to see what was actually going on, which, you know, I suppose everyone sort of lives in a bit of regret, but like, she was only 11. Like, you do specific things when you're a kid that you look back as an adult and you're like, I wish I'd done something differently. I thought it was really well acted out and really well written. I can't say I enjoyed watching it. I think there's like some films I watch, like Capernaum's another one, even though like they're not the same film, they also are. Where like the story is so compelling, but it's so hard to watch. Especially sort of when you get your head around that, you know, Callum is internally suffering, but he wants to do everything he can to make his limited time with his daughter memorable. But he's obviously failing at every turn because, you know, 11-year-old kids are notoriously difficult to please. I definitely don't see it the same way Rob does, because I don't really relate on many of the levels. Like, mental illness, I've only seen from like an outside. Like, it's never really something that's affected me. But I have, like, obviously, you have likes of John, and I have some other mates that have had mental illness. My mum's suffered it as well. Obviously, I don't have a kid, so I can't relate to it on that point. But sort of just seeing it from the outside, I thought it was so well done. I'm probably going to push up some of my scores and probably lower my enjoyment score. Pure, just thinking about what's going on. That, like, my score's probably going to be around the same. But I think, like, on a technical level, it's...
Yeah, I do want to mention on a technical level quickly, because I genuinely think that this has some of the best cinematography and the best sound mixing I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah, I thought the sound mixing was outstanding.
Like, because there was one thing that I thought was really interesting. It was something I heard in an interview with Charlotte Wells, and she was talking about using under pressure for the final scene. And she said that her and I can't remember the guy's name. I'm gonna Google the guy's name quickly because I feel like I should say it. Sorry, 1 second.
sound design man.
Sorry.
Benson P. Honeydew.
Bruh.
Oh, brr.
In the interlude, Rob, Camilla had a similar feeling to you for a little bit, or for most of the film. The sense, and other people have said as well, the sense that something bad was going to happen. Which, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah, how it was done. But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so the guy's name is Oliver Coates, right? So Charlotte Wells and Oliver Coates were working on this scene together. I think it was his idea. No, I think it was her idea to use Under Pressure.
Oliver, bring the coats. How many coats? Oliver Coates. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it wasn't just me who heard that. Okay, I wasn't going to say anything, but I did. So okay.
Oh no, I just had the same thought as Simon.
What?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anyway. It's
But it
okay.
sounds like all of the coats.
Coats off.
You're
But
fucking
yeah,
adorable.
So Charlotte Wells and Oliver Coates were working on this scene together. Charlotte Wells, like it wasn't really intentional to use Under Pressure, but they were editing the scene to Under Pressure. And basically, Oliver Coates had this idea, which I think is so effective in like making an old piece of music new. So he had the idea of cutting out the music from Under Pressure and isolating the vocal track. And then what Charlotte Wells did, which I think is so cool considering that she doesn't have like a background in music or anything, but she basically drew a diagram of what she wanted Oliver Coates to do with it. So she had like one wave which represented the actual music in the track, one wave which represented the vocals, and then one wave which represented what she wanted Oliver Coates to add to it. And what she wanted Oliver Coates to add to it was basically just like a simple cello in the background. So the music from Under Pressure cuts out. The cello very subtly comes in when it's just Freddie Mercury's vocals, Freddie Mercury's and David Bowie's vocals. And then there's a point where Freddie Mercury's vocal meets the cello and it just becomes one sound. And it's so cool. Like it's so easily missed, but once you realize what's happening, it's so like it's just like, man, that's such a cool idea. And it works so well. Because what it made me think of, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but what it made me think of is just isolating that vocal track and then having like the sort of like haunting sound of a cello underneath it. It made me think of like how I sort of when I listen to music, I almost force myself to relate to it. So like I'll be sort of like picking out words and picking out lyrics and thinking like, oh yeah, that kind of like describes this moment in my life and like that kind of thing. And I was thinking because that scene is something that Sophie's remembering, you've got Under Pressure, then the music cuts and it's just the words. And the words because they're kind of it's almost like two on the nose, but it really works because it's kind of describing what's happening in that scene. And I kind of got the impression that like maybe this is a song that Sophie listens to now and relates it back to what happened on this holiday with her dad. And I thought that was so cool.
I did just want to say I really did like the music choices for these. Like every single one of them, you look at the lyrics, and you got like, "Tender is the touch of someone that you love too much," or then like when she's singing about losing my religion, and it's like, "But you are not me," and it's I can't quite. Sorry, I got a really bad ear for lyrics, but like. When I was listening to it, I was just like, man, this is all just. I don't know if this, like you said, it was just like it might have been a little bit on the nose, but I was like, I don't think that it's anything that's. I don't know. It just sort of walked this line where I was like, that was really clever, and like that really related to everything. I don't know if it was supposed to relate to it because that interview that you sent me on Spotify, like. Charlotte Wells seemed to like be doing it kind of instinctively. They go like, "Did you do this on purpose?" And she's like, "No, honestly not." but like you look back and you go, "Because that's really clever that you've included that." And she's like, "Yeah, no, complete accident." It's like that's really cool. I really like that sort of thing.
I know this is gonna sound really fucking stupid, right? But on a holiday, especially when it's kind of like a cheap holiday at disco, was it weird that I was expecting at least one song of the YMCA?
What's a fucking pillock? Point at him and laugh.
Because I feel like because like I don't know, because like I kind of expected it at least once. I was like, okay, or maybe it's actually because the point I was gonna actually make about it is
I'd love to hear this point.
Because Rob, you're saying that the cello is haunting, and I was like,
not as haunting as YMCA.
My mind is jumping places, right? But like, because of like very typical disco music is in the background, Under Pressure being one of them, and YMCA is also another typical cheap holiday disco music songs, right? Yeah. But like, I don't have an ear for it, but like, I've never found a cello to be haunting. I always found it kind of like bassy, but not really.
Yeah, I get what you mean, but I think in this context it is just because like Under Pressure is something that everyone's familiar with. And I think when you have that moment when the music drops out and all you've got is Freddie Mercury and this cello, it's kind of like there's almost like a sort of like instinctual sort of, well, what? Like this isn't what happens here. And then you realise like how sort of I don't know, like almost visceral Freddie Mercury's voice is because it's isolated. And there's something that just it's a bit like it's not exactly like it, but it's kind of like in The Shining where there's a scene where Danny is playing on the carpet and then the camera turns from behind him to in front of him and all of a sudden the pattern on the carpet is the other way around. Like it's not something that you'd necessarily consciously go, something's changed, something's not right. But there's something in your mind that goes, something's weird about this. And yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Why did you bring up YMCA? What was the connection?
Because what is the lyrics? It's just get some help and get yourself cleaned, which Callum could have done, but unfortunately that was the part of the story.
You're right. I regret asking. Emmanuel, do you want to do your opening statement?
Oh, man.
Oh, here we go.
But Simon, I could think of a haunting cello. There's multiple ones in multiple movies, but the first one that jumps to mind is the scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker is hanging his head out the window and wagging his tongue, and it's freaking brilliant. But then Hans Zimmer in it, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'll give you that. It's not singular cello. It's cellos, I guess. But like, okay, Ben, you're right though. Unfortunately, you are right though. Yeah.
Also, Simon, did you bring up YMCA because of the Macarena? Because they
songs
are very similar.
Actually, yeah. Remember, like one of the two like main songs is the Under Pressure song and the Macarena song, and I was like, why is it like I've seen these like kind of like all inclusive like tourist holiday places that always have like at least those two songs. I think those are like copyright free songs, so they can be played anywhere in the world. So that's probably why I'm thinking about it. It's that and Happy Birthday, but not everyone's birthday that day. But it's like even
Everyone's birthday that day.
It wasn't Pat's
Are
birthday.
you all right?
No,
He's just
obviously
found out he's
not.
got asthma. Leave it alone.
What do you want from me? I'm on drugs currently. Give me a break.
That's me on the sofa.
That's me in the spotlight. Losing.
No. Let's not do that.
It's fun to stay at.
Anyway, Manuel, continue.
Opening statement, Emmanuel, go.
That's me in the corner.
Motherfucker.
Me in the spot. Anyway, great song. It's been a while since I heard it. I was singing along, and I was just like, I actually have to stop singing because poor girl. Sorry. No, that's the point of this. I like you're doing your best, little girl. And you're not doing
Trying.
reason of like thinking you can sing. You're just the memory of it. Just the just have your moment. I'm gonna stop because it's hard to sing on pitch. You're not, but just keep going.
It's a terrible song, to be fair.
For REM.
To be honest, it's a very sad song. You know, it's just, or depressing song. But that it like Rob was saying and other people were saying, everything that was picked, whether it was instinctual or not, it was spot on, very thoughtful. So, and maybe it's the way I watch it, the way we watch it. So I kind of felt a little bit like, I don't know, a tutor analyzing the student's film and going, and picking up on all the little things. Because one thing, and I don't know if it's because I read the synopsis.
You motherfucker.
There's some movie in it. You just read the synopsis. A
I
brief.
mean, summary or synopsis. Like the full on, like 900 word synopsis.
No, when movies does it, they say synopsis, but it's just a quick summary.
It's the summary, yes.
Yeah, it's like 15 words. Like this is a basic introduction
That's
to
the best thing, yeah.
yeah. So that no, we just read that. But from that, I felt like I already knew, like as soon when I read that and then the film started, I was just like, oh, okay, I know what's going on. And then all the little things that were happening. So usually, Alec, obviously you might watch it twice, but I'm watching it kind of like multiple times in one go.
Mm.
So and I try not to be familiar with this because I'll do the crap out of it when I'm watching it myself, especially when I was watching Batman first before we watched it together, or even when we watched it together. As soon as I see something, I'll stop it. Sometimes we'll talk about that moment as well. We'll analyze that moment and everything it relates to and everything that's come before it that this moment is like talking about, or everything that's coalesced into this moment. If there's something we've missed, I'm like, I've missed just a little bit. So it does really annoy me, and maybe it's part of just my brain wiring. But the it can really annoy me if I miss something, even if it's just something that something has done or gestured or said, or there was something going on in the background. Even the way they changed the focus really get you to think about the nonverbal cues and the little hints all throughout the film. So I noticed how there were lots of things about the film that were basically telling you the whole story, but also telling you what was going to happen, but also giving context to what has already happened. And I was like, yeah, this is very thoughtful. I might not be enjoying it. I'm kind of, but this is very well done. Like from the kind of little thing of the all-inclusive band to just like when you see him smoke in the balcony at the start, to what she says later about smoking, to a brilliant moment how they sync how you're feeling with the script. So when he says "love you" to the mom, you're like, that felt weird, and then the girl's like, that was kind of weird. And then I had paused it because I was just like, we were both thinking, we didn't say it, but we was thinking the same thing. And then the little girl said, like, that was very smart, kind of script writing and just the pacing of the story and having things come out as they did. And I think the feeling of Camilla's just dancing. Um, the feeling of like something bad's gonna happen, like very early, like Camilla was saying that, and I realized it's like, oh, I don't have that feeling. Why don't I have that feeling, or as much as you have? And I was just like, oh, and I was thinking because I already resigned myself to it happening. I was just like, okay. I kind of like as soon as it started, I was just like, oh, this is what's happening. Okay, cool. And I kind of wasn't feeling that feeling because I guess I already mentally just accepted it and kind of was no longer accepting it or kind of slightly checked out, even though I was paying a lot of attention. Like, I guess part of it, I wasn't feeling it as much. But this is not a knock on the film again. I kept thinking it was really well done. Um, what was it? There was something else. Um, well, you said, Pat, I know what you meant when you said it. But he's like, yeah, I don't have a daughter, and he's listing all the things. I was like, only one person here has been a dad for any length of time. So I think most people get where you're coming from. I will add that because it did get me thinking about like the special relationship between a father and daughter kind of thing, and was talking to Camilla about it and what it gets me to think about in like the past and the kind of future with like how we plan to have a family, and it it is a really dynamic, but at the same time as well, I really like Sophie, even though that some problems issues. I get it, but I also it annoyed me because I'm just like Sophie does not need this,
Mm.
but at the same time, know if you're capable of giving what she needs. But dude, what the fuck are you doing? You just left her, and anything could have happened. I was just like, what the? You sorry,
It was the 90s.
doesn't matter what the it was.
Oh shit!
But that's one of those classic things that in real life, multiple times when that's happened, there's sometimes that's happened and the kids disappeared. Like, especially like just think about Maddie. That whole thing growing up, huh?
Saying the world feels mother in the current wouldn't do that.
Yeah, like I like obviously we're after all that, so not that that matters. It's just knowing what could happen on top of obviously the feeling that it like builds, which is really good. And it's just like, man, even though yes, it makes complete sense, it was pissing me off. Anyway, no, the character, not the film.
Mm.
I think the last thing I'd say is um I can't remember now. Anyway, I think yeah, I'll just sum it up like this. I think because the way I watched it, I thought it was yeah, it was telling me, and I usually am bad at getting certain things anyway. So I don't know how I was able to see certain things. So I just chalked it up to the way she did it was very kind of you didn't have to look too hard, but it also wasn't slapping your face. Some things were more obvious, some things weren't, but it was all there on screen. And yeah, really well done. Um, sorry, I just struggling to get any of my words. But yeah, just that was it. Actually, I can't remember. So
Just
sum it up.
on just on what you're saying about the father-daughter relationship, there's so many aspects of that that I really like. Like one of them is how she shows the dynamic between them, with her being sort of older than her years, and him, you imagine, has probably become a dad at a young age, and he's had to grow up a bit faster than the usual person. So he's almost like catching up to what his age is now. And yeah, there's a lot of nice little moments, like the one where he's like, "Oh, you should go and talk to them," and she's like, "No, they're so young. Why don't you go and talk to them?" And he's like, "No, they're too old." And then the other one where the teenagers mistake them for brother and sister, and he's like, "No, I'm actually her dad." Like, yeah, there's a lot of nice little moments like that where they're almost like stuck in between the typical kind of like parent-child relationship. So it's like, and it kind of ties into what you're saying about whether he's able to give her what she needs. And I think like the sadness in it is that he's not, in a number of ways, really. Like, because the bit where she talks about the business that he was going to start, the calf, I think it is. And he just kind of like brushes it off and like wants to move on. And then there's the other bit, which is such a sweet scene. And it's when she's recording him and she asks him what he did for his 11th birthday, and he's like, "No, turn the camera off." And then she's like, "I have turned it off." And he's like, "Why is the red light on?" And she's like, "Because I haven't turned it off." It's like just little things like that. It feels like such a. It doesn't feel scripted like that. That's how well written it is. Like these feel like genuine conversations between a father and daughter. And what was I saying? So the bit with, oh yeah, whether he's able to give her what she needs. Like even that bit where like she's like, "Oh, I'll just record it in my little mind camera." And now that's kind of the setup for like her having these two kind of different sort of like, not contradicting, but just different realities. Like she's got the recorded footage of her and her dad, and she's got what she can remember of her and her dad. And yeah, it's all, it's just all very well thought out and very, very respectful to the characters. And I think that's what makes it a difficult watch for me, is because you've got a father who is kind of failing his daughter, but the film is kind enough to go, "This is a dad who's not very good at being a dad, but look how much pain it causes him as well."
I think that's something worth noting because, like, when you did Big Fish, there was a certain sentiment of he's a bad father because he wasn't about. And it's like, what was he doing though? And what he was doing was helping other people. And it was like, yeah. Where you have it with Callum, he is trying and he is doing what he can, but when he's confronted with, "Stop offering me things I know you can't pay for,"
Yeah.
that's just where it all becomes a bit much. And it's like, yeah, I can get that. And it's like, it's all very well going, I can't relate to him because I don't have a kid. But I think that's what the age thing is for, when he says I'm 30 next, or I'm 31 next year. And you're like, damn, imagine if I had a fucking kid. Just imagine. And it's just, you might worry about how you're gonna support yourself throughout the month. Now imagine you have to support a kid and it's your responsibility, and you can't just get rid of it. Like they're a person. And it's just like, imagine how much you might be under pressure. Do.
Yeah.
I think that's like, oh, sorry, man.
I always agree. I was like, yes, very much under pressure. And just that I get that pressure, and I also get one of the things I forgot. I can't remember the rest, but one of the things I forgot is that I got the birthday blues. Like before he said it, I was just, I got it. And then he said it, and I was just like, yeah, that is what that, because I usually would get the same kind of thing, which Camilla helps me out with. I still get it, but well, I'm trying to get better. when that was happening,
Simon, sorry, could you just mute a minute? Because Emmanuel's silencing his own mic from your echo.
Is my echo? I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Griffiths.
Thank you.
Yeah, when it was just a kind of cool moment. Again, how well scripted, shot, cut, acted, all of it. I got that from the feeling, and I was kind of thinking with that, and then when they made it or put a name to it, Birthday Blues, I was like, oh, that's what I was feeling. That's what he was feeling. Yeah, I get that. Like,
Mm.
it's what it is. You try not to show it. You try to be better or feel better and not remember certain stuff. You try to make the best of it, but obviously there's certain moments that just get to you or that remind you of something and make you want to shut down when you know you shouldn't, because it's your birthday. It's like that's not the point of this.
I
So
think as well, like you have things where you go like, oh, he fucked up there, he fucked up there, and he fucked up there. But like, what didn't he fuck up at? He didn't fuck up at Sophie feeling like she had a relationship with him. He didn't fuck up at feeling like she could come to him with anything. You know, like she feels comfortable enough mentioning that she had a kiss with a boy, but it wasn't like a peck on the cheek. It was it was a grown up kiss. And he's like, okay, all right, that's fine. he, he encouraged her to have a loving relationship with her mother, even though they weren't together. And he said, I want, I say I love you because she's family. And she's like, oh, she's not your family. And he's like, no, she is. And it's like, oh, but you're not together anymore. It's like, doesn't matter. He encourages her to practice Tai Chi with him. She, even him doing the holiday, like he is always attempting to do something fun with her, even if it's, skipping out on a bill. Like you're like, oh, but like, but the this might be my favorite scene actually. It's where he addresses it and he says, I'm really sorry about last night. How did you get into the reception? And how did you get into the room? And she's like, oh, I went to reception. And he's like, oh, fuck. And he's like, and she goes like, that's all right. And he goes, no, it isn't. It's really not. And he's been beating himself up the whole time, but like that's the only bit that like I think he should beat himself up for. And it's something that he admits she doesn't really want to dwell on it anymore, but he owns up to it. And he says it's not all right. And I don't care if you don't, if you're fine with it, it's not fine.
Mm.
But then they're fine again. That she then just chucks mud on him, and he's just like,
yeah,
okay.
I was glad he did. You reminded me. There's certain conversations throughout the film that it's kind of a weird one. Like some of them, I feel like they're ones I had with Nevia. Like long story short, I'm no longer like for a while in her life. I've been cut out of her life. Which was hard at the time. I guess I've gotten more used to it, but I don't tend to think about it anymore. But there's like certain conversations I felt like I've had similar conversations where like you could talk to me and there was like not much of an age gap. Like and I can like see her growing and she's like getting more into certain things and I trying to spend time with her and we all also almost had a holiday similar to that, but in the end, like even though she really wanted it, the mom didn't let it happen. It was good to go to Legoland. So there were little things I was just like, it's again, it was really good. Like he's trying, and I'm glad he said sorry, and that at the end, what he was saying about you can come and talk to me, and that you could tell he was really trying to be there, and also he's trying to be a parent, but also trying to understand how she feels. It's just like it was a kid around your age. Yeah, oh, that's cool. And it's kind of like he's trying to engage, but which is sweet, and I don't know, it's good. But yeah, it's good.
Would be tempted to go, he's a bad dad because he did these two things, and it's like he also did a lot of stuff right,
Yeah.
and like he did a lot of stuff like the age difference is actually quite helpful in places because like he's like, no, you can tell me if you do drugs, and she's going like, what? And he's like, I did it, so you know you can if you want to, but just tell me about it. And she's like, I don't know if I even want to, and he's like, that's fine too.
Mm.
Just want you to
Yeah, I
talk
love
to me
that
about it.
scene. Yeah, I really love that scene. Just like the way he handles it, I think is so nice. And it's
Mm.
like it is that thing of like, everything leading up. Well, that's quite nice actually. Everything leading up to this point is just like all of these reasons that Callum has got to feel inadequate as a dad, and then you see him kind of like at the points where it really matters, and it's like no, it's like he's a really thoughtful guy, and he's there for her when where it does actually mean something. Like 'cause she's not going to well, I mean she does, but like the important part of her memory isn't that she didn't have a wristband. It's it's things like
Mm.
that, and that probably leads on to my favorite scene in a way. I think I probably only just realized it. But the second time I watched it, I noticed it. I didn't notice it the first time, but it's the first scene where you see adult Sophie. Because the camera kind of like pans up from underneath her, and you know that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio going like, I kind of like had like an internal moment like that because I noticed that the rug that was under her bed is the rug that he buys. So
Oh,
I was like,
at the end.
oh man, she's still got his rug, and then I was like, wait, and if I'm watching this, then she's obviously still got his video camera as well. And then I started thinking like, shit, this could have like some really big implications because if she's still got those two things, it's like, well, was Callum like doing this holiday and like recording everything? Well, sort of like, like making sure that there's a video camera there and like buying the rug, and then at the end where they get a Polaroid taken, and like there's all these little things, and it's almost like Callum knows that and it ties in with the scene on the boat as well, where he's like, "I'm 31 next year. I don't see myself making it to 40." And it's like it's almost like Callum knows that this is going to be one of the last times that they see each other, and so he's like building these memories for Sophie and making sure that she's got something to remember him by in like a positive light. And yeah, it's another thing that just makes me go like, shit. Like it's like there's so much going on for Callum, and even there, like he's got no money, and if you kind of take that as read, that he knows that he's not going to be around for very much longer, and his priority is still, I can't leave much behind, but let me leave this behind for Sophie. And I think that's really, it's another thing that I think is really kind about the portrayal of him.
He ain't singing an REM song, and I respect him even more for that.
Can I mention one thing actually? I don't know if it was just my take, but maybe I think Alec might be the only one who'd have had the same initial reaction to me. But like there was that horrible scene where it's like obviously she goes off on her own and chills with the teenagers in the bar and that, and Callum goes off sort of like driven to walk towards the beach, and he walks into the sea dead at night. And I was
Mm.
thinking, like, oh shit, is this how he's going to kill himself?
Yep.
Because if you've read Captain Corelli's Mandolin, that's how one of the characters dies in that, and that's quite a definitive scene. And I was really prepared to like, oh no, this is how she's going to find out. They didn't go that route. So in the way, obviously that's good because I would have been copying something else. But at the same time, it's like maybe that went through his mind. He was thinking about ending himself, ending his life right then and there. But thought, no, I have to still stick with it for my goal's sake.
My eyes were glued to the screen there. I was just kind of like, where the fuck is he? Where the fuck is he? Where the fuck is he? He's got to come out of somewhere. Oh my god.
And then you see him in the bed just half asleep with his butt out. As always.
What a perky butt though, am I right?
That's kind of like where I started to find it quite difficult to watch because just like him walking out to sea, I kind of didn't feel like he had the intent to go and kill himself, but with
it's a self-destructive behavior. You fuck up and you want to punish yourself, and nothing else really matters in the moment. You just you don't necessarily want to go and kill yourself, but you kind of want to do something reckless. You want to kind of put yourself at risk a bit, and like you have the full intent of coming back, but you kind of just want to put yourself in a little bit of danger. And I don't want this to lead to an awkward moment where everyone goes, "Are you all right?" But like, that's I feel that's something that you could read into it. I think there's like a bit of Callum that knows he's going back to that hotel room because that's where he ends up. Because if he really wanted to kill himself, he'd just be out in the ocean.
Yes.
But I think in that moment, he's I think you get it when he walks past the couple and the lady drops a cigarette and he just goes, and he just zeroes right in. And it's sort of with the same energy that he walks in front of the bus. There's no hesitation about it. He just goes, "Oh, a cigarette," and he's just smoking it like directly after that. And it's just like, yeah, you're seeking a bit of self-destructive behavior.
The way that I read it and the way that it kind of like sort of it reminded me of sort of thoughts and feelings that I've had in the past was that it's not necessarily that like he's walking out to sea with the intent to never come back, but it's almost like there's loads of examples of this. Like the one where he nearly gets run over is another big one because it's like it's something that could have ended with like him being dead or him being in hospital or something like that. And he doesn't even flinch. Like he's just like, okay, whatever. And there's another one where he's like balancing on the balcony. And it's like you could very easily lose your footing and end up sort of with your skull cracked open on the floor. But he's just there like completely calm and just like, oh, whatever. And yeah, it's the same energy in that scene, I think. And yeah, it just reminds me of a few points in my life where like there's been a sort of situation where there could be like a big danger or something that could end with like me being in a much worse position than I was before. And it's like it's not necessarily the thought of like, oh, I want to kill myself, but it's like a thought of, do you know what? If it did happen, it might not be that bad. In a way, it could even be a relief. And it's like you don't necessarily want it to happen, but at least it'd be easy, and then it'd be done, and you wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore. And it's that's what I did.
Don't want to worry anybody.
I'm trying to get better at talking about this stuff.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is the most that he's ever spoken about it. So
I don't. I feel a bit awkward and horrible, but like it's.
You shouldn't be, Rob.
Healthy things. It's like the gym. Healthy things usually feel awkward and horrible.
Yeah, that's the thing, innit? You can either not do it and feel awkward and weird about it, or you do it. So I chose to do it that time. Yeah, but yeah, that's where it became really uncomfortable for me, and that's one of the scenes where when I was watching it with Rachel, like my heart was like pounding because I was like, 'cause I knew she wasn't really getting it, and then when we came out, she said like, "Oh, I didn't really understand it," and then my heart started going again, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna have to try and explain this and
Explain
this."
that.
It's yeah, and that's what I was saying at the start. Like, it's a very personal thing, and I don't expect anybody to have the same. Well, I mean, you'd hope not, right? You don't want anybody to have that experience of the film that I had, but that's one of the reasons why I love it so much, is because it's almost like it almost sort of forces you to confront those kind of things, because I'm very good at just sort of burying it away and laughing at farts and going, yeah, everything's fine. But underneath, it's kind of like, I don't know. But yeah, it's a really therapeutic experience for me in a weird way.
Isn't it? You can see why I like to make negative emotions everyone else's problem. Just like to share in that sort of shit. So you can see why I find it frustrating when you have a problem, and I'm like, share your negative emotions around. It's fun. It's really good. You feel better. Everyone else feels worse. You're good. It's good. And you're just like, nah, it's fine. Farts. I support this decision to be more open about it.
Oh, thanks, man.
Thanks. Don't swim in the ocean because you can't swim.
Well, exactly.
And don't stand on a balcony because you've got weird raptor feet.
And terrible balance.
And terrible. I like how the two people were like, we are authorities on self-destructive behavior. We're like, this film was brilliant. And everyone else who hasn't done that was like, yeah, I didn't get it.
But genuinely, I think that is like that's a big thing for me, because it's almost like I think I saw something in Callum that I related to that I've never been able to relate to in another character in a film. And yeah, that's quite a big thing.
What I would add is that I did get that like I do get the self-destructiveness. Yes, there is that element, and maybe because it was too close to home, parts of, I guess it can happen to anyone, but when you're responsible for another life, or someone else is looking up to you like that, letting that get to you like that, because that's a huge thing, and that was a big thing for me as well. It's just like when I knew I was like on the hot seat, sort of, to speak, that I'm not letting that get to me because I can't afford to. But yeah, many times before then, like, yeah, I get that.
Mm.
It's, yeah, but yeah.
There's like little bits though where like you can kind of see that self-destructive behavior. You don't necessarily see it in him, but you hear it explained through Sophie, and it's in the little diving trip where she takes the camera for a bit and she's like, I got to have an octopus on my head. It was amazing. It was the best thing ever. I was just like, oh, bless you. When she's like, anyway, Dad's gone diving now, but he doesn't have a license. He told a bit of a porcupine. Anyway, bye bye. And it's just and you kind of like,
Yeah.
with your adult brain, you're going, oh, that's fucking dodgy as fuck. But as she understands it, it's another little in joke, because like, you know, he's made her kind of comfortable, more comfortable than she probably should be, but he's made her comfortable with, you know, crime. So it's you know, it's the Scottish way. So like understanding how she processes it, and she just, because I was like, why would you say that? And I was like, because she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand it's necessarily like that big a deal.
Mhm.
But like you just see like how is she processing this destructive behavior, And she's like, it's a fun thing that me and my dad know about, but I shouldn't tell anybody. And it's like, oh wow, you two make so much fucking sense. Like when you put it through this sort of lens, like
Yeah. That's a really interesting part of Sophie's character, I think, because you have those moments like that where it's like, well, there's it's not kind of it's not your typical arc, and I don't think it would have served the film if it was. But she kind of dips in and out of different feelings towards her dad, and it's kind of like that thing of it's like she's going on this, or she's kind of like in the middle of this realization that her dad is a person, and he's not just. It's
her
kind of like
dad.
that weird thing is that like you kind of your parents are kind of like on this pedestal for most people, and it's like you view them in this kind of like really special light until a point where you go, they're just a person like me, and like they go through things as well. And I think that's what Sophie's going through, and it's really messy, and it's not a straight thing, but she kind of dips in and out of it because she's kind of going like, oh, he hasn't got a license, he'll be all right, and we can throw bread rolls at the performers, and that's really fun, and all of this kind of stuff. But then she also has moments where she's like, you're yeah, you're going through your own shit, and then her realizing that is what makes it so tough for him as well. I really like that kind of.
Our relationship has made me so adult that I now feel adult enough to criticize you.
Yeah, at 11.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
damn, that's. And it's criticism that is like valid as well. Like it's, it, it's really difficult to put this into words because again, what are you watching? You're watching a dad and a kid go on holiday, but there's so much like emotional complexity in their interactions, and it's like, god damn, I can't even like articulate some of this.
You know what? I think Mark Kermode had a really nice line in his review. I can't remember it word for word, but it was something like. Actually, it reminded me of things that we've spoken about before, because on quite a few calls I've spoken about this, like this idea or this theory that the way that some brains work is that when we're watching films we interpret it as a memory. And Mark Kermode was talking about how this film is like watching a memory that never happened to you, and it sort of exists in this space between memory and experience. And I thought that was such a really nice way to put it. But then he followed that up with, I'm not critic enough to know how that happens. It just does. And that's kind of what it is. The film does something, but how it does it, I have no idea. And he said another thing about how it would look on the page. And yeah, I can't imagine reading this screenplay and going, yeah, this is going to be a great film. Because, yeah, it's just like, if you actually kind of like take it apart and like put all the elements out and like map it out across a timeline, it's like, okay, so what has actually gone on? And it's like, I'm not sure, but it all builds to this feeling. And yeah, it's for me, it's like I said, it's everything that a film should be.
Alex disappeared.
Kids no fucks.
Do you guys want to do favourite scenes?
Sure.
Why not?
Why the fuck not?
I mean, like I said, mine is the one where you realise that adult Sophie has still got the rug that he buys, and it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of like unpackaging that whole thing about perhaps what he was doing was leaving her mementos. I think that's really cool. But yeah, who wants to go first?
Mine was when he decided to go dancing and forcing her to dance with him. I thought that was quite a nice scene. Even like I've said before, where I'm not a parent, you sort of get like a warm fuzzy feeling when you see all that sort of take place, especially when you know that he's sort of struggling with his inner demons. And I think throughout the film, I got a little bit of a sense that she did resent him a little, but she was also sort of trying as well.
Mm.
But I think that scene was a nice sort of summary of their trip.
Yeah, you know, I can't listen to Under Pressure without crying now. I was I was walking through Sainsbury's and it came on, and as soon as the Freddie Mercury lyric comes in, sort of where the music drops out in the film, I found myself just tearing up in Sainsbury's. I was kind of like in the bread aisle, thinking like, man, I probably look like an idiot, but yeah.
Well, now I
find it
can't play
really
that
hard
at
to
my
listen.
funeral.
Oh no.
Well,
They're
I'll
under
probably be
pressure.
crying there anyway if I'm there.
Yeah, it's going to be already done.
No, I want mine to be a joyous occasion.
I'll probably be distraught, man.
I'll make sure it's joyous.
That's really cool to hear, Rob. It there's a song that does that for me. There's probably quite, to be honest, but there's a song in particular that reverse wise, because of stuff that was happening to me at the time. The song, you know the version in Shutter Island, Bitter Earth.
Hmm.
So like I knew that song before I had watched the film, and it because of the lyrics and how it relates to like what I was going through at the time. It pretty much always makes me cry. And then when I saw the Shutter Island and heard the song, and I was just like, even though this is not sad, like in that way, this is making me cry because I'm yeah, it can be powerful what songs can evoke if like it's got certain emotions linked to it.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like it's not a film that I had any kind of it's not a song that I had any kind of like special connection to before this film, but like
I was surprised when
now
it showed up because you were like, as far as as long as I've known you, you've been like, Queen are all right. They're just very basic.
Yeah.
And then just when it ended with that, I was like, this is where the film comes together, and you've summed up with the Queen song. Well, hang on.
Well, that shows you how powerful this film is. It's made me a fan of fucking Queen.
We finally got him there.
Queen will just bring you to your knees.
Just took me crying about people who I've never met and will never know, but kind of feel like I do.
Also, I did just want to say, when Pat said about his funeral, I just had like a little like flash forward, and I'm just like heckling the priest, and he's going like, Patrick Kenny was a lovely soul, and I'm like, that's your opinion.
That will rise from the grave for that.
Well, we know who's not being invited now.
Can't do fuck all, mate. You'll be dead.
That'd be a great line in a will. Everyone can come to Alex.
He will come on
Pat's
his own.
final wish is to hang a sign on the door saying no.
No, Alex. And I'll just come and I'll go like, you can have one.
You can have one, Alex.
And then Alec Guinness shows up.
Bollocks. You've been dead for fucking years, Alec Guinness.
From a certain point of view.
It'll be Alec Baldwin. No way.
No, Alec Baldwin, you've been to too many funerals that you caused.
Alec, but for a moment, I kind of imagined you as Hugh in Knives Out, Chris Evans. It's just come along for the last, and then yeah, can't say it anyway.
That would be.
You've somehow turned Alec into Kanye.
Kanye?
Because he had a big smile on his face, then you mentioned Knives Out, and you went,
I was going to say, I've had enough of being called a Nazi today, thank you. Anyway, is Simon still with us?
No.
No,
You
did I?
upset him by telling him to mute himself, so he's falling asleep.
Well, fair enough. Who wants to do favorite scenes?
We're already 2 in.
Yeah, but they were me and Rob.
No, it was me and Rob.
No, it was me and Rob.
Okay, we're 3 in then.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. I was like half asleep. What's up?
The sky.
have you? Did you know that it's fun to stay at a YMCA?
Sure.
What was Pat's favourite
Doesn't it
scene?
make Simon cry as well?
Are we on favorite scenes? Oh,
I want to know. I want to
oh,
know what Pat's favourite scene was. I didn't hear it.
It was the scene where he goes dancing and forces her to dance with him.
This sounds dodgy on paper, but yeah.
Okay, so you're asking me for my favorite scenes. I would say, Christ. It was
Christ
it
is
was
not in the
interesting.
film.
It was interesting dynamic watching them like bond together as father and daughter, right? Like you can, because like you had a scene earlier where you see a father and son, like, well, you know, the kid's crying and he's like rolling on the floor, and like the father is like, "Oh, you ruined this fucking holiday," and it's like, but afterwards you have like a scene pretty much right after that where keep forgetting the daughter's name. Shit. Sophie like drops the swimming goggles. And like those weren't like cheap for Callum, especially because Callum is not he's not currently in a good place financially, right? And but he's still like he's upset with her. You can tell he's upset with her. But like it's and it's quite obvious he's upset with her, but it's like he still forgives her because, you know, she says sorry, I really didn't see them, and it's like, oh no, you didn't. And I'm like, I get it, right? And you apologize, so I forgive you as well. And it's kind of like just seeing, it's actually, yeah, it's all the small moments they have together, trying to like bond together, and it's just like looking at all the same things and looking at when they were in that like weird steam house is like what I would like to say, when she's like she was like talking about, oh, I like how we all shared like the same sort of sky, and he was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, oh, you know, because like even if we're like in like different places, we always see the sun, and like that means we're all under like the same sort of like sky together. And it was like, that's incredibly sweet for what it's like. But then it becomes this question of like, is that what she remembers actually saying? Because like, as I think it was established that the way she remembers it and like what's actually recorded and like actually played out is not necessarily the same thing, is it? So I don't know if it's like 100% that's what happened, but I feel like it could have happened that way, and I think it's better to choose to think it happened that way, right? Isn't that kind of the point?
But that's another interesting thing about it, isn't it? It's kind of like, I don't know. It's that interesting thing of you've got sort of two different perspectives. Like one is the video camera and what we know happened, and one is Sophie's memory, which is what she believes happened. But it's like, yeah, there's some room to kind of like look in there and sort of work out whether it actually did or not.
But I guess it's kind of like the point of that. I guess it is it weird to say it was wish fulfillment that it happened that way in her mind.
I think potentially, yeah, because I think the scene where Sophie's getting out of bed because there's a baby crying, and it's like, well, it's almost like she's kind of like searching back. Oh, that's really sad, actually. It's like she's kind of like searching back to her relationship with her dad to try and work out why she is how she is as a parent. And it's like, you could read it as her sort of scanning her memory for the lessons that she can take from her dad. But even in doing that, you still got this like overbearing sadness from him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just say, because it's favorite scenes, her wishful thinking version of that scene is my favorite scene, and that will be it then.
Of all the wish fulfillment scenes we've had recently, I'll take that over John Wick, the film.
I mean, that was
Also-
last year. Let's not keep jumping. to
It
films
still
that were
happened.
Someone's gonna pick John Wick 2 in that case. So watch out.
Damn.
No!
How many weeks to my next pick?
As Rafiki said, sometimes the past can hurt.
You have to just learn from it.
To add
Okay.
to what you said, Simon,
Mm.
I forgot about that moment, but basically when she said that, I was just like, man, the foreboding. Because as soon
Oh
as she
yes, there
said-
was that, wasn't there? Because it
But
came,
Rick Ford.
it was a bit awkward, because there was there was a feeling of like the holiday got a bit awkward now, and it was just like why does it feel awkward? It feels, again, it felt like, again, there was something off
Excuse me.
about
Oh,
this.
really?
I mean,
Oh.
like, no, like throughout the whole movie, as I said, since the Tai Chi scene, it was already something was off, but it got
Oh, yeah.
more weirder during that time. I was like, just something, just a little.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think, before that point, yeah, I get what you mean. I was gonna say, basically, in my head, I had just realized at the time, I was just like, oh, share the same sky. Wait a minute, Aftersun. They no longer share the same sun. Man,
Oh,
We did.
that's so sad.
no,
What are you talking about? We all share the same sun.
Yeah,
No.
not if you're like not around
Dead.
anymore.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a good
It's the
point.
same fucking sun.
Yeah, but if you're dead, you're no longer on this earth. That's the thing.
Yeah, but
Well,
that's
I
sun
mean,
is
you're
up
just
to-
under the
it's-
earth, no?
Well, it depends on your spiritual beliefs.
Well, yeah, it's the spiritual side of it, isn't
oh man. But for me, that was like another thing that kind of just reinforced the idea that he's dead, and this is just like her reminiscing and in the memories, just like how there's a scene right near the beginning that flashes through the film. Actually, this might be my favorite scene. I'm gonna say this is my favorite scene because I can't actually I have a few favorite scenes because none of them are really, I don't have a really strong favorite scene. Probably because it is all just sad.
it? It's sad.
But
It's not all sad.
It's sad.
in
Fuck
context,
you, John.
it's all sad. Especially when from the beginning you're just like, oh crap, he's dead. And that's just what I was thinking the whole film. And the first scene that, it's from the beginning anyway, but one of the first scenes that really cemented it, besides the first kind of classic camera thing, I'm like, man, this is we're delving into her memories, okay. But when there's the kind of dance scene in the club kind of thing, but it's obviously older her, the director, but it's older her, intermittent flashing, and I'm just like, that's dark. But it's dark and foreboding, and it's like that just gave me the feeling of, yeah, he's not around. She's thinking of this memory, and every time it came up, it was just further cementing it. It's like, yes, he's not here. Yes, he's not here. Yes, he's not here. But it's just like, man, it's really well done because it doesn't directly there's a lot of obviously moments. It doesn't directly say anything, but it says a lot of things without saying any words to it. And I think there might have been two other moments where there's like there's one moment where she's just by the pool chilling. They're just quiet, not really talking, but they're just chilling in each other's presence, just appreciating that they can be there together with each other on holiday next to the pool. And I think probably the moment he says sorry, and he's just like, no, I'm really, really sorry. That was really bad. I mean, that was so uncalled for, the kind of thing. And then the moment when they're talking about her kissing a boy, I think those are like probably peak moments throughout the film for me. Which, balanced out the parts I did not enjoy.
I think that's the thing. I don't know if I've already said it or not, but yeah, I really love that kind of like the sort of like all of these things happen, but none of them are overplayed, and like none of them are shown as being as significant as they are, because at the time they're just not important to the characters. And I really love that like the film has the sensibility to do that.
It's good.
It's good.
I guess one of my
Just a little depressing.
yeah, it's a little bit depressing.
You're a little bit depressing.
Thank you.
One of my
Aw.
favorite scenes probably is the one that Rob mentioned earlier. In passing, was this where Callum's talking to Sophie in the little hotel room, wherever it is, and she's obviously recording him and the red lights on, and she's like, "Oh, you're not recording me," and and she's like, "No," but that she is. And then they stop, and then they put the camera down, and you can see like this really kind of like I wouldn't say voyeuristic. That's probably a bit of the wrong word there, but it's just kind of like you just see it like you're not meant to be seeing a real life conversation happen. You just see his face just in the corner of the screen, and the TV on one side, and then just everything else in the room, and you just see his emotions as he just looks at her and he speaks to her, and he's like, yeah, and he pours his heart out like he's not being watched. So we're privy to like a very intimate scene where he just tells her everything. And I thought that was really cleverly framed, how you could still see his face even if it doesn't look like you were meant to be seeing it. So it's quite clever. So yeah, that's one of my favorite smartest scenes in the film, I think.
Yeah, I really like the use of reflections in this actually, because it's like there's so many like different layers and like different kind of like dramatic registers, and because it's like you've very obviously got Sophie's memories, and then you've got the video camera footage, but there is, like you mentioned, there's a really interesting kind of like in between where it's like the reflections of a mirror or the reflections of a table or the reflections of a TV screen, and it's like it is things that you're seeing, but the implication is that you shouldn't be seeing them.
Yeah,
and it's
Which is why it bubbles up. Because at the scene before the karaoke scene, I was like, what happens here? Why does Callum get into a really shit mood? And I'm like, oh, he's on a very expensive holiday with his daughter. I think he asked why she's still wearing the bikini. So I'm thinking it was that scene where he left her alone with the kids
yeah.
before. Someone is badly singing an Elvis song about
Unchained Melody. Yeah.
full medley. But, Yeah, that one about falling in love with you, and he's surrounded by a bunch of old people who are all couples, because of course they are, and they're
Be
all
back
just
in a minute.
dancing. Okay.
No fucks given.
There I go.
Sorry, just the way he got up there was really funny. But yeah, he's surrounded by some old fuck singing a song really badly about love and that, and then just all these old people kissing, and he's just sitting there and he's just like, and the lady he thought he was going to be here with Sophie, she's getting remarried, and it's all just kind of coming down on him a bit, but like you don't have a reflection for him to kind of take it out on. And like there's no like, I don't know, I feel like there's like kind of a release kind of element. You don't have that release because he's in the middle of everybody and he's just sitting there, he's just like getting boozed up. And she's like, we're gonna sing a song now, Dad, in front of everybody, and he's like, fuck yourself. It's like, where did so I was like, where did that come from? And I was like, no, that was actually dead subtle. I'd be pissed off. Like,
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like you always, it never, it never tells you anything. Like there's never a scene or anything in the film that goes, "This is what Callum's feeling. This is why it's significant." But the parts to why it's all happening are all there, and yeah,
which is why I think I don't take that much issue with the lyrics of the songs that she's choosing, like being like relating to them, because I'm like, everything else is very subtle, and that's the stuff that kind of okay, there's like enough for me to go ha 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 ha. If I didn't have subtitles on, that'd fuck right up. But but yeah, I think that's probably why I forgive it, because I'm like, no, everything else was dead subtle, so I'm willing to forgive you doing that. But then you have the thing of like, this is our last dance, and you're just like, hang on, what? And that wasn't even anything that was said. That was just something that's just part of like the song and that. And you're just like, what the? I'm like, that line that she didn't write is the bit that made me go, oh, the film's about this.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. It good. Any closing thoughts on Aftersun?
The their favorite scenes.
Before Moon.
What?
He said
I
After
think-
Sun.
Yeah, that's the next level, isn't it?
Oh man. God. No. Before Moon. For the werewolf guy.
See, we're already getting a bit of momentum into this.
Werewolves in London.
Oh man. Yeah, it was a cool, interesting pick. Camilla was saying, I was worried about kind of suggesting picks like this. There's a few things she'd like to like suggest. I'm not going to say them. No, don't worry. But there's a few things she would like to suggest, but they're kind of similar in vibe in terms of it might be a good story, but it's not like a lot happens. It's very focused on a few people, and it just slowly goes through the story.
Do
But I'll see if I'll
any
pick
of them have the YMCA?
Huh?
Do any of them have the YMCA in them? Otherwise, Simon's going to be really disappointed.
No. Saying that, has anyone seen the Banshees of Inisherin?
Yeah, I think we all
Yeah.
Yeah, the Banshees of Ed Sheeran is really good.
I'll ask you afterwards what you thought of it because obviously it's not related to this, but it just reminded me of terms of flow of a film. It's obviously it's not a fast film. It takes its time.
Yeah, not a Fast and Furious film, not at all.
It's neither fast nor furious.
Oh, no, it's pretty furious.
I don't know about furious.
I think
mean, he
Gameplay-
gets angry sometimes, right?
To drive
the,
angry,
f-
yeah.
the fast and passive aggressive.
Okay, yeah, I'll agree with that.
Oh, man.
He just went up with a little note on the fridge going like, please don't eat my cheese.
If you use my butter again, I'm going to cut my finger off. What?
I might this is, but I haven't seen it, by the way. I'm
Oh,
not.
you're not?
Yeah, I've just heard things
All
from
right.
people.
That'd be a very good pick, to be fair.
I wonder, but I'm just like, why am I not surprised this is made by the same people who made what was the other film?
In
In
Bruges
Bruges.
and Seven Psychopaths and 3 Billboards.
Well, I only know In Bruges. Actually, no, I have seen Seven Psychopaths. That was awesome.
7 psychopaths.
Psychopath.
They made 7 psychopaths as well?
Oh, Alex
Seven-
turned into KSI again.
7 civilian footpaths.
Which one will I choose today? Oh man. No, I think I've seen that film. That film I really liked.
Yeah,
That
that film was awesome.
That film was great from start to end. Freaking loved the character dynamics in it. Anyway,
When I was at London Film Festival, they had the premiere of Banshees of Inisherin. So outside the South Bank Centre, they had like this huge kind of like backdrop and like massive posters of the film and whatever. And while I was stood there like watching it all going on, there's 2 guys walked past me. And one of them went, "Oh, it's the guys from In Bruges." And then the other guy went, "Oh, it's a premiere," and all they could get was 2 Irish blokes.
that is rude. They're both great actors. Well known. Especially anyway.
Colin Farrell had
Especially
to
the
work his
one I
way
can't
up.
remember.
Like Colin
The
Farrell
younger one.
started off not great, but he's gotten better as he's got older.
I think the thing with Colin Farrell is that they kind of like pushed him into being a leading man, and I don't think that was ever like something he was interested in. But
Well, the
since he's
thing is,
been doing like indie films and like character acting, he's been great.
Like my mum first saw him like years ago when he was in an Irish show called Ballykiss Angel, and she hated him in that.
Was he in Ballykiss Angel?
Yeah,
Oh wow.
but my mum's even starting to like him now. So
Yeah.
He was also in Ballykiss Daredevil.
Oh my goodness.
that was bad. That
Yes.
was John level bad.
Oh, no need to invoke the name of John O'Brien.
What I would like to add, going back to the film, one of the things I thought earlier on was how they've been scored differently in like I guess different places, or 2 or 3 different places. You've got like the Metacritic and the Metacritic score and the score in Mubi, which are very similar, and then you've got the score in IMDb, which is similar to Me, Dan, and Simon's. And I know Simon's not sure if his score is representative, but maybe.
It's all right. It's all your opinion.
I mean, I will give it a good college second go. So we'll see how it goes.
But it's quite interesting. I feel like it's one of these things. It depends on like not just the mindset of the viewer, the approach of the viewer, or what they want to get out of it. It's obviously a lot of what you get out of it or how you feel about it is subjective. But I can imagine like there's a lot of people watching it, whether it be on Mubi or the critics, watching it from a more critical angle, a more kind of almost like the angle of this is someone's like first feature film or this, like almost like a tutor looking at someone's final project or something, going, "This is amazing. You've done so well. I'm giving you like 90, 95. You've done amazing." And then I was kind of coming from like, I guess the mainstream viewer who's just watching this and just going, "It was all right. It was a very good, well made, okay film."
We don't care about those people.
Do you know, I think an interesting comparison though is between IMDb and Letterboxd, because they're basically like similar sites, right? So it's sites where you can go on, log a film that you've watched, write a little review, and like that kind of thing. But the difference between IMDb and Letterboxd is that the people that use IMDb tend to be a little bit older, and I think the things that this film sort of tackles in like mental health and sort of, like trying to sort of deny that something's wrong when it quite obviously is wrong and like that kind of thing. I think it's something that a younger audience is more in tune with, because you think of like our parents' generation, like most of them are like, "Oh well, if you're feeling depressed, just don't." Like, and it's like, yeah, it's not as simple as that. And I think a lot of like older audience members will probably look at this film and go, "Oh, I don't know what his problem is." And it's like, well, it's not quite as simple as that.
IMDb is full of trolls as well, though. Whereas Letterboxd isn't as
More film fans there.
I need to interject there. Wasn't Letterboxd the place that had a higher score for Tokyo Gore Police than IMDb?
We're brainwave.
Yeah,
Get out of my fucking head.
I mean, you're always going to have your anomalies. Generally speaking, I think Letterboxd is it skews more towards like us as a demographic, I think.
Well, what I was going to say is Letterboxd is more sort of for actual film fans, whereas IMDb is like the place that everyone goes to, like myself included. I use that as like a go-to thing if I need to find out something, even if it's not necessarily true anymore.
Yeah, it's that
as I've been finding out.
Yeah, that can be edited.
Yeah, but like IMDb is so full of trolls. Like I've seen like a film might be a month away from being released, and then you'll see a lot of review bombs already. Whereas I think Letterboxd, whether it's something a score that you necessarily agree with or not, I feel like if you're reading the reviews, there seems to be people that are more passionate about the films that are out, whether they've liked it or not. I think you get a genuine sort of feel for the film from their reviews.
There was a thread on Reddit a little while ago, and it was like the biggest scoring differences between IMDb and Letterboxd, and the film that had like the biggest difference was Moonlight. So it scored really high on Letterboxd and really low on IMDb. And I was like, I'm so not surprised, because this is like, on IMDb, it's probably all the racists and the homophobes going, "Oh, I don't like this," showing things that I don't agree with. Yeah, so I think IMDb tends to skew quite right wing as well.
A good example is the film that's just come out called Till, where I've seen some reviews on IMDb. Best not go read them because you'll get quite angry. And I have no idea why they've been published.
I think IMDb as well has a lot of users who like probably made an account like 20 years ago so that they could go like, "Oh, the new Rocky film's fine," and then they just sort of like reactivate it all these years later to go like, "Oh, can't believe they've made a film about a gay man."
I
can't pronounce the lead actor's name.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they've done that for the HBO film. I mean, HBO TV series, The Last of Us, even though it's not out. Because they literally went, "Oh yeah, it's shit. You haven't watched it. How would you even know? Because it's not fucking out yet."
Yeah.
I guess I have to agree with Pat on this because like it's too right. It's what did you say? Right winged, yeah.
Yeah, it is very right winged. Like with that film I was mentioning, there's like, oh, it's a film for snowflakes. It's like, what?
Hey, how is it that?
Yeah.
It just tells it history as it is.
The one thing I don't like about it is they don't allow you to comment on people's reviews because I'd be having a fucking field day with that.
That is one thing about Letterboxd actually. So there was something a little while ago where somebody had commented on somebody's review. I can't remember what it was, but what was it? Oh, I don't know. They basically said something about the review, and then the person went on the person who'd commented page and found a couple of reviews that contradicted what they'd said. So they were like, "Oh, how can you say this and hold this view and this and this?" And then that person created another account pretending to be a moderator and just went through and commented on all of his posts, being like, "This is hate speech, and we're going to ban your account." Like, you do get weird things like that on Letterboxd, but I do feel like, generally speaking, it's more reasonable than IMDb.
Yeah. I
Thanks.
still use IMDb though because I still quite like the site, but there's a lot of dickheads on it. Sorry, Manuel.
Thank you. I was just saying because I didn't realize any of that. I don't like. I kind of look in multiple places for where who is scoring it what way, like across all the kind of different sites and the different kind of review places and magazines and whatnot. And I didn't really think much deeper than that. And hearing what you guys said, it's just like, that is a good point. It's kind of the same idea of like products being reviewed. There's certain biases and things being skewed. And that's a really shame to hear about that kind of stuff about Till. And I can imagine how many things like that are on so many other films. It was, yeah.
Why people like this?
Yeah. Exactly, Ben.
Right. Benjamin. What's your film?
The film is The Thing.
Yes.
It is the film. It is the 19. What year is that? 1982 remake of The Thing from Another World. Retitled
But not the
Thing.
2000 something remake.
No,
of
this is
Thing,
the
Name the Thing.
John Carpenter's The Thing. Make sure you watch the 1982 version of The Thing. That's 1 hour 49 minutes long. 18 certificate. It's a science fiction classic, and it should be playing on Prime Video if you wanted to rent it, and places where you can pirate it as well. So
without sounding annoying, make sure you like actually make a poster. Unlike certain people who are not here.
And then, like certain people, but if you're a fresh Facebook, you should see the post right now.
Okay, cool.
Which means I get to finally watch my Arrow edition of The Thing.
Yes.
So that's quite exciting.
I bet Daniel's feeling pretty stupid right now.
He's missed the chance to pick The Thing, and that's his own fault.
Also, Simon just teabagged him.
Wait, what the fuck did you just say?
Oh, you used the poster with the logo from the original Thing.
Yes.
Interesting.
Just for extra confusion.
That Thing. What the fuck? Is actually how you fucking named it? Jesus Christ.
Hopefully it's the start of some many great sci-fi classics.
Yes, indeed.
That's a specific wish.
Maybe
hopefully this film is the first of our line of 1982.
I mean, depends if I can find the fucking proper version of my dark comedy first. Then we'll see if I have to switch it up.
Oh yeah, you gotta find that.
Because I don't really want to make you guys like. I mean, it is on Apple TV, but I don't really want to go that route. We'll see how it goes first.
I think we've got enough Apple TV logins. Actually.